me to the MFing hospital right effing now. That lady right there, I do not think I would have made it as far as I did without her. If I was past 7 centimeters and would not have gotten the epidural that day. Hey y'all, so I'm gonna get real raw and very vulnerable in this video. I understand the risk of posting a video like this, which, you know, there may be some not so nice or not so comforting comments to follow, but hopefully that doesn't happen. But I know that it might. I get that. But the reason that I'm sharing my failed home birth story is because I believe it's going to help in healing my own trauma surrounding this experience. Like, also, I made this video in hopes of helping someone else out there who may have had a failed home birth and is looking for some comfort or just the confirmation that they are not alone. So although it's been some time since I had my second born son, about 2 years ago at this point, I feel like it's never too late to kind of share my story. So with that being said, let's get into it, y'all. So before I even get into the failed home birth, let's talk about why I wanted to have a home birth in the first place. Now, the reason why I wanted to have a home birth my second go round goes all the way back to my first pregnancy and delivery, okay? So back in 2016, I got pregnant, and in that year, I had a lot going on. I got married that year. I moved into my new home that year, and we now had a baby on the way. So it was a lot of life experiences happening at once. So in April 2017 comes around, which is near my due date. This is where all my trauma began. So one day while I was about 8.5 months pregnant, I got a call from my OBGYN, and she told me that she felt that my baby was getting too big and that she wanted me to meet her at the hospital to do an ultrasound, you know, to see how big the baby was. So I asked her, like, why do we need to meet at the hospital for an ultrasound? And she said, because the hospital has more high-tech equipment and you can get a more accurate picture of how big the baby is. So I said, okay. So I went to the hospital by myself. My husband was at work, and they proceeded to do an ultrasound. So while they're doing the ultrasound, my doctor is in the room with the technician, and my doctor is looking at the screen, and she's like, oh my God, your baby is over 10 pounds. She looks at me and she says, Cicely, your frame is way too small to be pushing out a 10-pound baby. Before things get out of hand, we need to go ahead and do a C-section to get this baby out before he gets any bigger. So I asked her, like, well, when do you plan on doing a C-section? And she said, now. And I'm like, now? Yes, now. So at this point, I'm going into complete shock. I'm in panic mode. I'm here at the hospital alone. My husband is at work. My mom is not in town because my due date wasn't until a couple more weeks. And my doctor just dropped this huge bomb on me. So she tells me that we need to do the C-section now. And I sat there for a while and I didn't give her a response because I'm in shock. And then she said, Cicely, we need to do this like now. So like rushing me and putting all this pressure on me. So I call my husband, and I tell him that we are having a baby now and that he needs to get to the hospital like immediately. And he's like, what in the world? And asking all these questions like, why are you even at the hospital in the first place? What's going on? Is there something wrong with the baby? And he, you know, starts to panic. Y'all, I didn't even tell him about the ultrasound appointment because, mind you, she called me out the blue for this appointment, like out of nowhere. I'm minding my own business, remember? So after I get off the phone with him, I call my mom and a few friends from work who had to take off to get to the hospital. So my husband finally shows up. Everyone's all panicked and uptight. We get in the operating room and they cut me open for a C-section, and I had my firstborn son. He came out perfectly healthy, and he was 9 pounds 12 ounces, so not even over 10 pounds that my doctor was tripping about. The whole thing was just super quick, super all over the place for no reason. And honestly, I wouldn't wish that type of panic or drama on anyone. And what makes matters worse is that they cut me wrong, and they didn't even document the C-section procedure, as every doctor is supposed to do. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later, so just stick around, keep watching. But in my personal opinion, to this day, I honestly think that money and time played a big factor in why this happened to me. And I say money because I had good insurance, and the doctor gets paid more for C-section births than natural deliveries. And I say time because my doctor probably had a lot of births about to happen at the same time, and she probably wanted to get my birth out of the way and in the time that best fit her schedule. And y'all, that's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong, but it's just how everything went down and how fast that it went down that it makes me skeptical and feel like time and money was the for real reason why it happened that way. And that's unfortunate. So with all that, I just told myself that I never wanted to go through something like that again, y'all. Yes, the C-section went well. I didn't feel any labor pains, which was a plus, but I still didn't like how everything went down. And I knew then that I wanted things to be different if I had another child. So y'all, fast forward to my second pregnancy. So I found out I was pregnant during the height of the pandemic in summer of 2020. Nerves were high. Everybody was wearing masks and social distancing. And honestly, I didn't want any parts of the hospital. I didn't want to be nowhere near a hospital. That's just kind of where I was at that time. I honestly felt like I would be at much more peace with just getting a midwife and having the baby at the birthing center. But since I had a prior C-section, all the midwives' offices told me by state law I would have to have the baby at home if I wanted any midwife services. So fast forward a couple months after finding out I was pregnant, I finally found a midwife office and I wanted to work with them. So they began seeing me, but before they would agree to continue working with me, I had to give them a copy of the prior C-section surgery report so that they can know kind of where my incision was to, ensure a safe home birth delivery. So that's when I reached out to my prior OBGYN from 2017, and come to find out they don't have the report. Like, I even called the hospital, y'all, and they did not have the report. And honestly, I should sue them for that. Now that I think about it and now that I think on it, because how do you cut somebody in the hospital and not have a surgery report on it? Like, that's got to be super illegal or something. But anyway, luckily the midwife office still agreed to work with me despite not having a report. So while I'm seeing the midwife every few weeks, I also signed up for hypnobirthing classes, which are basically breathing and relaxation classes to kind of help you in the labor process, and it helps to relax you and get through the labor pains. So I'm seeing my midwife weekly. I'm going through my hypnobirthing classes, and I found an awesome doula to work with for when the time comes. And I also booked me a birthing tub so that, my husband could learn how to hook it up so we wouldn't have any trouble the day that I go into labor. So, everything's going good throughout my pregnancy. And then we get to the day it all went down, April 21st, 2021. So around 9 or 10 a.m. on April 21st, I started having contractions. I immediately put my earplugs in, laid in a bed, and just breathed through my contractions, just as the hypnobirthing classes taught me. All right, today is Wednesday, April 21st. It's 7 o'clock. I've been having I think these are real waves, about a minute apart every 5 to 7 no, lasting a minute every 5 or 7 minutes apart. So I think this is it. I don't know for sure if this is false or not, but I'm listening to my Hypno Babies track. I just got done with the first track, which is Your Birthing Time Begins, and now I'm on the easy first stage. So I'm just trying to remain in hypnosis. I'm in center right now, and just continue to track my contractions using the app. And so I guess today is the day. I will touch base with y'all here in a minute. I was listening to, calming music and humming through each contraction, and things were going pretty good. My midwife arrived, took some vitals, and she was amazed at how calm I was, because I had been in labor at that time for about 4 to 5 hours. So shortly after she arrived, God's angel finally arrived. Now you're probably like, girl, who? What? What in the world? Who is God's angel? What are you talking about? Y'all, my doula was an angel sent from heaven. I don't care what nobody say. That lady right there, I do not think I would have made it as far as I did without her. I'm telling you. But let me get back to the story. So, y'all, my doula arrived shortly after my midwife, and then things started to get intense. My contractions were picking up and were getting more painful. So they got me out of the bed, and we began just walking around the house. I was holding tight to my husband's chest, and he was just guiding me throughout the house, and I stopped and I breathed through each contraction. And at this point, I'm still listening to my hypnobirthing tapes, and I was still very hopeful that I was going to be able to have this baby at home. So anyway, I'm walking around the house. The contractions are getting more and more intense. My husband and my doula were taking turns, y'all, walking with me around the house until I just couldn't walk anymore. So at the point that I couldn't walk anymore, it was already nighttime. Mind you, I started having contractions that morning. So I had been in labor all day. No medicine, no epidural, no laughing gas, no nothing. Nothing. So at 7 centimeters, around 9 or 10 p.m. at night, I just couldn't walk anymore. The contractions were starting to get unbearable at this point. So I sat down, and shortly after I sat down on the couch, my water broke right there on the couch. So now the midwife is telling my husband to go ahead, get the water tub, get it ready. So he goes in the room, gets the water tub, and he starts blowing it up. So 20 minutes later, we were asking him like, babe, like, where's the water tub? Is it ready? He comes out to tell us that he couldn't put the water tub together. He said he tried everything. I need some help. So my mom and my midwife went in there trying to help him, but there was just no putting that water tub together. Like, I don't know what happened, but it just wasn't happening. So at this point, my mood drops. I'm in severe pain. I do not have a water tub to get in. I start to feel helpless. So my midwife, okay, she's like, let's get in the bathtub. So we walked in the bathtub. I got in, but there was no getting past 7 centimeters. It's just like the baby just didn't want to come out. So at this point, I'm becoming irate. I yell at them. I tell them to get me out of this tub. They got me out of the tub. We went back in the room. And at this point, I was just ready to give up. I'm yelling through each contraction. My hypnobirthing techniques that I learned went completely out the window. I'm annoyed that the water tub wasn't working, and I just couldn't get past 7 centimeters for the life of me. And I'm just ready to give up. So I started yelling again, y'all. I was like, get me to the mouth. Get me to the MFN hospital right effing now. My husband was like, no, babe, you can do this. You can do this. And y'all, I appreciate him for trying. I appreciate him for that, because he knew how much I really wanted to have the baby at home. And he was 100% supporting me. But y'all, I just couldn't do it. I just kept yelling, get me to the hospital now. But keep in mind, y'all, I'm already at 7 centimeters, so you cannot get an epidural if you go past 7 centimeters. So there was a risk I would get to the hospital and they would deny me an epidural. But at this point, I didn't care. I wanted to take the risk. I was just tired, irate, and getting out of control at this point. So we got in the car, and y'all, this was the worst car ride I have ever had in my life. Not only was it the worst car ride of my life, but it was the longest ride of my life. The hospital near me didn't want to take me when my midwife called for some odd reason. I don't remember why. I think it had something to do with being a prior C-section and now trying to have the baby at home. I think it was just too risky for them. So we ended up having to drive all the way downtown to Tampa General. And that's a 30-minute ride from my house, y'all. So we in the car. I'm not screaming. I'm actually a little calm at this point, but still in a lot of pain. And it wasn't until I got to the hospital that I started screaming again and getting irate and just couldn't take the pain. So we get to the hospital. I'm yelling, screaming, cussing everybody out. My husband went to park the car, so my doula went in with me. And this is why I say she was an angel sent from heaven. She kindly answered the nurse's questions because I was just too busy cussing everybody out. She was massaging my back through each contraction, taking her time and reminding me to breathe. She let me squeeze the life out of her hand, her body, her arm, and just allow me to scream in her face over and over again as I lost all control at this point. Y'all, she was so calm, so nurturing, so attentive, so kind. And I'm telling y'all, I stand by this to this day that if it wasn't for her, I would not have made it through delivery at all. Like, I just simply would not have. So since that's the case, that's how I know she was someone sent from heaven for real. Like, so anyway, we get to the delivery room and the nurses check to see how much I'm dilated. Luckily, by the grace of sweet baby Jesus himself, I was still 7 centimeters and eligible for an epidural. Lord have mercy. If I was past 7 centimeters and would not have gotten the epidural that day, I don't know what I would have done. Like, no, there ain't no way. And shout out to all the moms out there who have given birth without an epidural, child. That's a different kind of strength for real. So anyway, they gave me the epidural and I finally calmed down and I got some rest. So after a couple hours, I was still at 7 centimeters. Mind you, my water had already broke at the house. It had been hours. So y'all, baby Eli just didn't want to come out, y'all. He was perfectly fine and happy in my stomach. So they came and checked me again for the last time, and they said that, y'all, the baby was starting to lose oxygen and that I needed to do an emergency C-section at this point. So my heart instantly drops. Like, since I wasn't able to do a home birth, at least I wanted to do a vaginal birth. But clearly God and Eli had other plans. And, you know, the baby's health come first. So since he was losing oxygen, I went back for the C-section. At this point, my husband is in there, went with me and I told him, babe, make sure when the baby comes out, they put him on my chest before they do anything out. I didn't get to do that with my firstborn, so I really wanted my child's first human touch, other than the doctor, to be on my chest. So he said, okay, babe, and they did just that. My baby was born perfectly healthy via C-section on April 22nd, 10 pounds, 10 ounces, and I immediately got to lay him on my chest just like I asked. He looked like a sumo wrestler just like I did when I was born. But despite all the chaos that occurred, holding Eli made all of it go away, and just in such a peaceful state that I can't even describe it. Y'all, even though I didn't have the birth that I thought I would, I had a perfectly healthy baby. I came out of the delivery alive. My recovery was tough, and I'm still recovering to this day. But like I said, I'm alive and well, and so is my baby and my family. And I hope that my story time touches someone out there who may have gone through a failed home birth and all the disappointment that comes with that. My heart goes out to anyone who has, been through it, but you must, however, be grateful that us and our babies survived birth in itself. Like, that is a blessing that we must hold and cherish even in disappointing times. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button to help me reach my goal of 1,000 subscribers this year. I'll see you all on my next video. Bye bye.